They've stood at the front lines of law, leadership, and public service. From the courtroom to the classroom, Attorney Jimeno brings sharp legal insight, academic excellence, and a voice that has guided national conversations. Attorney Toledo, a seasoned public affairs strategist and legal mind with years in media, corporate leadership, and government reform. Together, they bring law to life with experience, integrity, and the courage to ask hard questions. Two minds shaped by the law. Two voices trusted in and out of the courtroom. This is ABOGADO.
Good evening. Welcome to ABOGADO, where legal minds meet to discuss the most pressing issues of our time. I'm Attorney Toledo.
And I'm Attorney Jimeno. Tonight, we put the spotlight on a legal and political institution that has sparked both praise and controversy: the party list system.
Originally envisioned to give voice to the marginalized, the party list system has come under fire for allegedly being hijacked by political dynasties and special interest groups.
Before we begin our conversation, let's frame tonight's topic. Here's our proposition.
Once, it was hailed as a revolutionary tool, a constitutional promise to give the voiceless a seat at the table. The party list system created to represent those long left behind. But decades later, that noble vision stands in question. Political dynasties found a new doorway. Contractors wear the cloak of the poor. Famous names skew the ballot. Instead of representation, is it now exploitation instead of empowerment? Are we enabling corruption? Can reform still save it? Or is the system broken beyond repair? Because when the marginalized are used, not represented, what remains of the promise? Tonight, we confront a critical question. Should the party list system in the Philippines be abolished?
To help us navigate this timely and complex issue, we're joined by a seasoned expert in election law, Attorney Ronald O. Santiago. He currently serves as the election officer for Pasig City's 1st District under COMELEC NCR and teaches election law at the Philippine Law School and the Juris Bar Review Center. His insight and experience in electoral systems and public service make him the perfect guest for tonight's discussion. Let's begin with our take on tonight's proposition. Should the party list system in the Philippines be abolished? What is your overall position, Attorney Santiago?
All right, well, thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be here at
You're
ABOGADO
welcome.
program. I'm really for party list because at the onset, we know that the design of party list is for inclusive representation. Imagine a farmer, a laborer would have the opportunity to represent and even do something good for his or her sector. So that's something good. And as provided for under the Constitution, they are empowered not just to be part of its sector, but to be a lawmaker, to do something for the special interests and concerns of its sector. So that's a good thing about party list.
So, Attorney Ronald, you're speaking from the intention as to why this was included in our Constitution, and then an enabling law as well was passed for this. But what about the effects that we saw after the party list system was established? Like, BillionarioNews.com came out with an article recently that reported almost 50% of current party lists are now owned by political dynasties and private businesses. And a lot of them are also owned by contractors. And when we talk about contractors, Attorney Mike, yung isang problema dyan is the access to infrastructure projects that can be a source of pork barrel.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I understand the sentiments. Unfortunately, the system, the design of the party list is really to be like an innovation. to give voice to the voiceless, to the oppressed. So imagine before we are just voting for the district representatives who are more concerned about the concerns of their constituents. But here in party list, we are empowering marginalized and those belonging to the underrepresented sectors. However, with so many things going on, pinasok na rin siya ng mga political dynasty, pinasok na rin siya ng mga traditional politician, but it doesn't mean that we need to abolish party list. Because I believe if it's broken, it needs to be fixed, not to be abolished.
So in other words, Attorney, you're saying that while the intention of having a party list system as enshrined in the Constitution was noble, no? To make sure that the unrepresented and marginalized sectors of society are represented, specifically youth, labor, farmers, etc. But ang nangyayari, nakikita natin, ay hindi na ito yata natutupad. Pinapasukan na ng mga professionals, big business, as you mentioned as well, no? Mga contractors and all that. So, paano natin kaya ito magkakaroon ng reforma? Ano ang sa tingin yung dapat natin gawin para ma-address itong problema nito? Maganda yung intensyon ng batas, ngunit sa execution at implementation, nagkakaroon po tayo ng problema.
Alright. Well, like in any other law, it's not about the law itself. Because, again, as you have mentioned, it's a noble law. We do have a party list law, which provides for the guidelines, criteria, even of its nominees. However, since pinasok na rin siya ng mga political dynasties, traditional politicians, so there was circumvention that happened. And I think it's time for our Congress to revisit the guidelines as provided for under the parties. Maybe it's no longer responsive and adequate to our modern times, or perhaps we could also revisit how the Supreme Court defined those participants in the party list. Because take note, the Supreme Court had spoken that you don't have to be part of the marginalized or underrepresented sectors to be part of the party list. You just need to have a track record.
Alam mo, partner, yan yung ang paglaom case, saka yung isa pang kaso. There were two cases decided by the Supreme Court, which actually, in my view, partner, actually opened the doors for what is happening now, because they were saying that you don't really have to belong to the marginalized sectors of society. Ang importante lang na kailangan ay you belong to a national organization.
Or you advocate.
So you advocate. So in other words, the strict parameters as provided for by the Constitution, partner, medyo naging masyadong maluwag, naging more inclusive. And in fact, in another Supreme Court case, sinabi nila, they don't even have to have a track record, partner.
So lumala pa from the having a track record, lalo pang naging lenient. So when you say, Attorney Ronald, that perhaps Congress should revisit this, do you think Congress is the right forum, considering the party list representatives are there in Congress? So baka mahirapan na ito yung maging either oversight committee or magkaroon ng reform na ipasa dito sa Congress when you have conflict of interest existing there?
I see. Well, I know it's a challenge. Like in any other, like the law enabling the political dynasty and so many things that might be a conflict of interest on the part of the lawmakers. But take note, party list is meant to have not an inclusive participants, but inclusive representation. So instead of giving voice to the voiceless, ang nangyayari, ina-amplify pa yung boses na galing sa mga political clans and so many things. So I think it should be a commitment of our lawmakers from the Congress to really look at it, look at the guidelines, because in all fairness, as far as the party list law is concerned, napakaganda, napaka-ayos, orderly, and even strict yung guidelines, which is being implemented by the Commission on Elections. However, with the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, medyo nagkaroon ng opportunity na pwede palang pasukin. And I hope our lawmakers should look at it, so they would ensure that those who would be part of the party list representatives would be really someone who advocate what is the purpose why they are there in the first place. So something like that.
What about COMELEC? You're from COMELEC.
Yes po.
There are initiatives. I've heard Chairman George Garcia announce that they will change some of the rules that apply to party lists, including not allowing any more names that represent some of the ayuda programs. Which I think is fair, because it does provide an undue advantage to those party lists with the name. And of course, names then that I think represent. Can you elaborate? Ano pa ba yung mga babaguhin?
Oh, I see. Well, for this upcoming election, so we can no longer do something about it. Although, if you would notice, medyo konti ang na-qualify because in all fairness to our chairman, George, very proactive siya even sa party list. As a practitioner himself, he knows how this law is being circumvented by so many opportunist politicians, di ba, to maintain power after their term. So for this election, marami pong hindi na-qualify because of the technicalities. So naging mahigpit po ang screening. Imagine before, uunahan po yung mga party list groups to have letter A sa kanilang pangalan. Kasi may optics yun eh. Diba? Imagine na mauna ka, magugulat ka, may mga words pala na tatlo ang A, something like that. Pero with our Comelec chairman, it's now a raffle. It doesn't mean that your group starts with letter A, ikaw yung mauna sa balota. So that's one of the innovations implemented by our chairman. And yung nasabi po ni Attorney Karen for the succeeding elections. So maiwasan, magkaroon po ng guidelines talaga, maiwasan na hindi dapat gawing catchy or parang agaw attention, and sometimes nako-confuse yung mga botante natin na these people are the one providing for this kind of service, like the benefits that they usually get from the government. They thought this group is the one that should be given credit. Or in fact,
Because
they are,
kapangalan ng
yes,
ayuda
they
program.
are stranger
Yeah.
to the
Ang sayang lang
proponents.
hindi na pwede palitan partner. It will only be effective after the May 12 elections for the future elections.
But this is a very relevant discussion
Oh,
because
yes.
3 years from now, we're going to be facing the same problem.
Exactly.
Yes.
We
And
have
then,
the same party list that may run again.
Creative lang talaga ang mga political campaign managers and candidates siguro. No? I mean, in fairness, I guess you can say honestly, it's a brilliant idea. I mean, if you're a marketing, a political strategist, it's brilliant, no? Because it catches immediately the attention of the voters, no? Sa isa pang napansin ko, attorney, but I guess I don't think it violates any of the laws of the moment. Pero I also, perhaps as a citizen, as a botante din po ako, nakikita ko malalaki yung mga billboard sa EDSA. Ang lalaki. Makikita mo kung, I don't know if we can mention names, no? Let's say lang, party list na ito. And then, ang nakalagay doon, sikat na artista.
Tama po.
So, ang iisipin ng taong bayan ay ang tumatakbo yung sikat na artista na yon or isang sikat na athlete, no?
Yes, yeah.
But in a way, that is misleading. But at the end of the day, people do not know. That's why I believe a lot of education should go into the party list system. Kailangan turuan ang taong bayan, no, na ang binoboto nyo, hindi ang tao.
Tama po.
Ang binoboto nyo, yung plataforma ng partido. ng
Hindi nga
party
natin
list.
alam, currently,
Correct.
under this system, we don't even know what marginalized sector they represent.
Exactly.
Because of the misleading names, and
Yes.
some even carry the names of celebrities, some party lists. Yun,
Yes.
Is that something that will also be changed in the succeeding elections?
Well, I hope our chairman would be more proactive in touching even those aspects. Isa po sa gusto ko i-point out, no, on the part of the Comelec, we also publish the name of the nominees. So the people would have access as to who are the possible representative of these
Pero
groups.
titignan mo
But are they
titignan ng
allowing,
botante yun?
or
Titignan
are
mo ng
they still
botante
going to
yun?
continue allowing endorsement by celebrities in billboards and commercials?
Well, I hope we could regulate that. No? Let's see how our good chairman would deal about that. Pero at least now, nakikita ng mga tao yung relevance ng party list. Imagine, nakikita nila ang sikat na artista nasa billboard and they would think, tumatakbo pala yung artista na to. But then, may mga efforts not only sa Comelec, may mga duly accredited citizens arms kami like PPCRB, NAMFREL, Lente, we have Contra Daya, that they are helping Comelec in intensifying our voters' education about party list. Because to be honest, when I entered Comelec, I feel like people are not really interested about party list unless they are told to get or pick that number. So people do not understand the relevance, the gravity of their vote sa party list because they thought it's something that don't matter to them. Where in fact, isa sa pinakamahalagang aspeto, yung party list group talaga na dapat it should reflect talaga those sectors who didn't have a voice And now, with this party list law, meron ng opportunity.
Saka 20% yun, partner.
Yes.
These are 20%. 80% are the elected by districts.
Yes po.
Yeah.
So that's a huge amount.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
No, but that's my question. I think that's why we have a very relevant proposition here. Should we just abolish the party list system, considering that when you allocate 20% of the seats to party list representatives, there might be a redundancy because a lot of the marginalized sectors or issues can be addressed by our government and then by Congress and even by Senate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think if we're going to abolish party lists, we will just allow the political dynasty to reign, the traditional politicians. The reason why we have party lists because we want to have this voiceless, okay, to be a lawmaker, to abolish it. It's like you're allowing the victories of those politicians who have abused their powers for a long time. And take note, when you talk about district representative, ang concern po nila, constituents na nila. But sa party list po, national level. If may mga concerns or interests like sa mga agriculture, mga farmers, mga laborers, if there are party list groups who would emerge as a winner, there are representatives who would look after for these people. Diba?
Yun nga, attorney, no? I think maganda nga talaga.
Yes.
Maganda talaga ang intensyon, the intention for political diversity, inclusion, representation of the marginalized sector.
Yes po.
They're all good. But at the end of the day, let's face it, I think the party list system has been bastardized. Kasi ang ginagawa na lang nila, dati silang tumatakbo sa district, no?
Yes po.
And gagawin nila, tatakbo na sila next sa party list.
Yes po.
Tapos, so, kung sinasabi natin na the idea is, partner, is to, having a party list system would be against, it would destroy the dynasty system, no? The political dynasty system in this country. Pero parang on the ground, on reality, if you look at the real politics of things, parang hindi nangyayari yun eh. So, ano kaya talaga dapat nating gawin na para masulbayan? Kasi maganda yung batas. Pero as yun nga, yung pinag-usapan natin earlier, the execution is not. And you were saying nga, it will allow political dynasties to even propagate. Yes. But actually, they are already propagating even under that system.
Yeah. Attorney Ronald, I guess to follow up on my partner, Attorney Mike's question, when we talk about what needs to be changed, is it at the level of the Constitution or the enabling law? Or can we do the changes through COMELEC regulations?
Well, I think we need to reform our existing party list law because perhaps there are provisions that are no longer responsive. That's why it was an opportunity on the part of those politicians who want to continue their power. But on the part of the COMELEC, we are having so much resolutions. We have so many activities to intensify our campaign about party lists. And if we're gonna have a stronger party list law as far as qualifications, screening, accreditation, kami po sa COMELEC, we would even double the effort of our lawmakers. Kaya I think it's the commitment of all our lawmakers to make sure that this party list law will continue its purpose, which is to be the voice of the voiceless.
No, partner, if I may, historically ba, attorney, historically, when the party list system was introduced in the 1987 Constitution, and then there was an election after that, anong nangyari? Marami bang sumali na party list at that time?
I see. Well, historically speaking po, the first time it was implemented, I think, 98, if I'm not mistaken.
1988, yeah. So a year after our 1987 Constitution.
So more than 100 participated. And in all fairness, may mga parties po na nanalo na not the usual, representing farmers, representing women.
Yeah.
So
the youth, the youth.
I do see
may mga success
some
stories
legitimate,
na,
yes, I agree.
Yes.
There are legitimate party
Senior
lists.
citizens.
And even at committee hearings, I see that
po.
they have also substantial input.
Correct.
Yes.
So meron nga, tama po kayo, may
Right.
success stories tayo.
So ano nangyari? Bakit sa umpisa parang it was germane to the
Purpose
intent
of the law,
the purpose
yeah.
of the law. So bakit and then yun na nga at the start, yun they really representative of the marginalized, no, youth, and in fact I know some of them. Yung head ng youth kasama ko dati sa isang Senate office. So, but through the years, nag-iba.
Nakakita ng opportunity.
Oo.
Di ba, like you said
Oo.
kanina, resourceful ang mga Pinoy.
Oo nga.
So nakita
Oo.
nila yun, sabi,
Pwede
oh
pa.
this is a way to enter. And yung mga
totoo.
sinasabi kanina ni Attorney Ronald, yung being first on the list.
Yes.
Totoo nga yun, dati pagka letter A ka or basta nasa
Yes.
umpisa ka, yung chances mo lumalaki rin,
Yes
no?
po.
And pagka na-shade mo na kasi ang first, bawal ka na mag-shade ulit. And it invalidates your vote,
totoo
no?
po, totoo po.
Yeah.
Well, kami naman po sa COMELEC, in all fairness, when Chairman George assumed, talagang naging proactive siya. And one of the resolutions was pertaining to the party list. And I think based on the statement given by our chairman, he would do even more resolutions. However, despite all these efforts, if our lawmakers would just keep our existing law, which is no longer responsive, so it's gonna be the same thing. So I hope ang ating mga lawmakers would join COMELEC to make sure na nasusunod po at na-implement po yung purpose po why we have party list law.
Thank you, Attorney Ronald. For now, we'll have to take a short break. But when we return, we'll explore more insights from Attorney Santiago as we weigh reform versus complete abolition. Abogado will be right back.
Welcome back to Abogado. Tonight, we've been tackling the proposition, should the party list system be abolished? And we're joined by election law expert, Attorney Ronald Santiago.
We've talked about representation and legality. Now, we'd like to ask, if you had the power to shape the party list system moving forward, what reforms or changes would you prioritize?
Well, if I would be a lawmaker, I would make sure that there should be all of the sectors or margins will be represented. So, I mean to say, you don't have to have like 10 sectors fighting which are advocating for the same cause. Because what's happening, they are representing same cause, but from different groups. So
Oo
it has
nga,
to be a
no?
united purpose.
Yeah, and but right now, we don't have a system wherein you can even out. Meaning,
Yes.
let's say kung madami in one sector, I'm gonna be theoretical, like riders, marginalized ba yun? Kasi may one rider party list,
Yes.
right? So let's say kunwari marami na sila, na puro riders, 3 na yung seats or 4. O nga, walang way to
Yes.
to just distribute or diversify the seats, right?
Yeah, kasi yun nga isang problema, partner, isang disadvantage, yung overrepresentation nga of a sector.
Yeah,
Tama.
that's
Very
true.
good point.
So is that something that COMELEC can cure? I mean, we're now 3 lawyers discussing this. Is there a way to change at the level of the COMELEC, or is it required to be done by law, where we can specify, the government can specify ano yung sectors, marginalized sectors, and then party lists can run within those sectors. Para meron, parang let's say, tigi-isang seat yung mga in-identify na marginalized
Yes.
sectors. And then doon na sila maglalaban-laban, di ba?
Tama.
Anong kailangan doon, Attorney
I see.
Ronald? Is that
Well,
going to be COMELEC regulation or kailangan ng batas?
Well, I want to give my disclaimer. I want to be objective because I don't want to speak for the whole COMELEC.
Of course, yeah. You're also a professor.
Yes, and as a lawyer, I think empowered ang COMELEC as an institution, empowered to promulgate rules. However, it would be ideal if the lawmaker would also be committed to fix or repair what's lacking in our existing party list law.
Yeah, that's a good point. But again, the conflict of interest issue is something that needs to be overcome, right?
Yes.
So, pero I think that's a good idea. But you know, COMELEC for this 2025 elections disqualified or did not accredit around 142
Yes.
party lists. Is that a record for COMELEC? Ito ba yung pinakamaraming number na hindi qualify for the elections?
Well, this is my third election. From 2019, I think this is the lower number of party list groups that were accredited and allowed to participate in the election. Because before, I remember, it's like 200 plus or something. But for this upcoming election, we only have like 156. And based on the data that you can check in our website, more than 100 were denied either by reason of failure to comply with the procedures, which is very important for the accreditation, and I think other grounds for the dismissal of their application for registration would be they were not able to establish that they are qualified to be participants as a party list group.
You've mentioned that this is your third election
Yes.
with the COMELEC, so you've had at least 9 years of
Yes.
experience with COMELEC. Is it susceptible to corruption, the party list system, being registered? Because I've spoken to some people and they said, kailangan mo raw ng budget to even be accredited. But I don't know if that budget goes to just filing fees and the paperwork required, or is it also
that's true,
an
partner.
area that goes into corruption?
Naririnig ko rin yun na may nagsasabi, ibibenta daw nila yung party list nila. Ganon. I don't know.
see.
Is there any...
Nagiging opportunity ba to for corruption?
I see. It's my third election, so I've been in the COMELEC for 5 years, 2019, 2022, and now the May 12, 2025. As far as the fees are concerned, it's stated under the party list law. So may mga filing fees and other stuff.
Pero ano ba siya, mahal, or is it just nominal? Kasi you're
I think
supposed to be marginalized, di
Well,
ba?
I came from
So
judiciary.
dapat- oo.
It's a nominal amount. I believe it's 20,000 and other stuff. So you don't have to spend that much.
Not as
So
high as
ang
filing
naririnig
fees
ko sa iba,
korte.
sabi nila million daw yung kailangan.
Ayun
So
nga.
kung
Yun
ganun
din
sa iba na
narinig ko.
pupunta siguro, is it the same information
Yun din
that you hear?
narinig ko, oo.
Oo, so
Perhaps the other expenses would be for the legwork because you have to establish that first, you are not a fly-by-night organization. You need to establish that you have activities, you have track records, that you are really advocating these marginalized and underrepresented sectors. So I think you need to establish local chapters all over the country. Otherwise, walang papansin ng party list group mo.
So, attorney, perhaps that's something that COMELEC can also look into, whether the cost to even be accredited is also reasonable if they're supposed to represent marginalized sectors.
Yes. Well, as far as COMELEC is concerned, we have a table of fees. I don't know if it was already amended because the last time I checked, it's 20,000 something for you to register and be accredited. And the rest are minimal. So again, perhaps the expenses would be from outside activities, not inside the COMELEC.
Kaya siguro, partner, I think to the large extent, it did not help that the Supreme Court ruled in one of the cases, I think it's a Banglingkod,
Yes,
na sinabi na hindi daw kailangan ng track record. No?
And you don't even have to adduce evidence
And then you,
of
don't,
that track
you have the
record.
track record. So, again, of course, who are we to question the wisdom of the court? But it runs counter to the noble idea, as enshrined in the Constitution, to allow the unrepresented and underrepresented marginalized members of society sectors to be represented. Because ngayon, parang kung wala kang track record, di kung sino-sino na lang, di ba? Kung ano-ano na lang pangalan ng party list mo. And sometimes the ironic part of it, partner, is that, let's say, assuming, ito yung party list, ang pangalan, let's say, farmer. Kunyari na lang, pero hindi ka naman farmer.
Exactly.
And I know a lot of party lists na ganyan.
Oh,
The
so,
name
parang-
has nothing to do with what they're really, yung track record nila.
Totoo.
And yet they're supposed to be representing a certain marginalized
Yes, yes.
sector.
Well, I think it's an opportunity for our voters to be wiser that this party list election is not like a marketing strategy to be implemented by all party list groups.
But
Imagine.
is that a fair ask, Attorney Ronald? Is that a fair ask of the voters to be more aware and to be educated about this? Because at the end of the day, if you're very busy with your own life, parang hindi mo naman talaga matututunan yan unless there is an aggressive education
Yes.
campaign.
Well, kami po sa Kamalek, we do have voters education about awareness about parties because ako po, admittedly, whenever I go to universities, barangays, not all of them would be aware about the relevance of party list.
Ano akala nila?
Well, they thought that's just one of those. They can just pick any of them. They won't select unless someone told them to circle that
Sa
number.
baka alam nila, hindi nila alam na hindi ka pwedeng maglagay ng marami. Di ba?
Yeah.
Yes po, yung mga overvote po.
Mga overvotes.
Pero on the part of the COMELEC po, we are rallying about party list. In fact, sa mga universities, when we do have the roadshow, one of the things that we discuss is about the relevance of choosing the right party list.
And Attorney Ronald, has there been instances of vote buying when it comes to party lists based on your experience with COMELEC?
I see. Well, I don't have personal knowledge, but based on the reports, news, so it's like if you are running as a party list representative, it seems like you really have to do that. For you to, you have to do something, you have to do some, ang tawag doon, yung mga gimmick for the people to vote for you. Because again, yung interest po ng Filipino voters is not that much. Unless you trigger them, you give them something that would interest them to choose you.
So a party list candidate also is required to submit campaign report.
Yes po. All
There's
of
the
the
limit, no?
Yes po.
There's a limit. Under the law, diba? There's a limit per voter. You can only spend this much.
Yes po.
And you must submit your
The SOSE.
SOSA, no? SOSA,
The
no?
statement of contribution and expenditures
And you've been in 3 elections, as you
Yes
mentioned
po.
earlier. And so far, based on your experience, lahat ng mga party list na ito naman ay tumutupad sa requirement ng batas na kailangan mag-submit sila ng
I don't have
statements.
personal knowledge because I'm from the field. So most of the candidates who submitted their SOSE are from mayor down to the councilor. For the party list, they have to submit it to the main office. So far, I don't see any resolutions punishing or penalizing those who are not complying with the SOSE. Because take note, when they applied, when they filed their certificate of candidacy, when they accepted as a nominee for a particular party group, one of the conditions is to do it under oath, that they have to submit their SOSE on or before June 30 of 2025. Otherwise, there are sanctions, and that includes you will not be allowed to enjoy the public office unless you comply with our SOSE law.
I have a question. Is the law also meant to refer to certain regions as marginalized sectors? Because I've noticed that a lot of party lists, some of them also have names that are
Yes.
region-based
Yes po.
or province-based.
Or ethnic-based, like ang Bicolano, for example.
But I
or
think that
Provinciano.
goes into, I don't know, it seems to me like it's a political strategy because it goes to the number of votes that you can gather. So
They
you
have
can
the
kind of,
following.
so you
Yes.
can kind of compute, will I be able to garner enough votes
Right.
from this region if I appeal to them? So parang nagiging regional,
Parang fan base,
ethnic-based.
parang fan base,
oo,
yes.
oo. So
correct.
is that the intention of the law?
Well, based on the prevailing jurisprudence, other than those belonging to marginalized and underrepresented, even the national parties, regional parties are allowed to participate in the party list.
As,
so it's
as
now
a
broad.
marginalized,
Yes.
marginalized sector ba?
Well, marginalized is another thing. So if you are belonging to a political party, national party, and regional, you are allowed to participate.
Yeah.
Even if you are participating as coalition, you are allowed. That's different from those belonging to marginalized and underrepresented.
But you know, talking to you as lawyers, I
Yeah.
think that this can be solved. Yung pinag-uusapan natin,
Correct.
Attorney Mike na and Attorney Ronald na decisions of the Supreme Court.
Yes.
This can be addressed by law because
I believe so.
Di ba
Yeah.
sa atin
Yeah.
decisions of the Supreme Court become part of the law of the
Yes.
land.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you can amend a law
Yes.
by passing another law.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Ang gusto ko tanongin din, partner, since party list na rin ang pinag-uusapan natin, paano kung magtayo kami ng abogado party list?
Pwede naman kami underrepresented.
Kasi dati, the Supreme Court said even professionals pwede na magtayo, di ba?
Yes, those lacking well-defined political constituencies. So that includes professionals.
Oh, di ba?
So I think possible. You just need to establish that you need
partner.
to be represented.
So next
Pag-isipan
next
natin.
election ba, party list?
Pag-isipan
First
natin, di
nominee,
ba?
second nominee.
Or you're the first, I'm the second. It doesn't matter, di ba?
Yes, so let's see. Wala pa
Yeah.
bang nagpa-file.
Malay
So
mo.
let's see.
Naku,
Pero
baka pag may nakanood dito, biglang meron na.
Meron na
Letter
ba?
A and B pa naman.
Wow,
So, abogado party list.
Trademark, copyright na natin yung abogado para to
Yeah.
make sure wala nang gagaya.
Yes, let's see. Tingnan po natin.
But let's go back to what the Constitution provides, because at the end of the day, if Congress passes a law that tries to reform this party list system, the guiding principle would be it has to be consistent with what's provided for in the
Yes.
Constitution. Attorney, what's the wording of the Constitution?
Well, our Constitution guaranteed inclusive representation, specifically for the marginalized and underrepresented. So that's the main purpose why we have the party list law anchored to that constitutional provision.
Yeah, Section 6, Article 6, Section 5, no?
Yes po.
Oo. At least yan natupad, no? Unlike sa dynasty provision ng Constitution, hanggang ngayon pinag-uusapan pa. In fact, magandang topic yun, partner. Next
I
time.
think next time
Diba?
yan naman, political
Should we
dynasties.
really pass already the anti-dynasty law?
Tama po.
Alam mo, we're running out of time, no? Kasi talagang, alam mo talaga, exciting. The discussion was really very exciting and very informative and engaging.
Yeah.
But we're running out of time. But if you don't mind, Attorney Ronald, Attorney Karen and I each have one final question for you. And with the permission of my partner, if I can ask the first question. Ang sinasabi nila, one of the disadvantages daw of a party list system is and let me know if you agree or disagree, is the lack of accountability. Kasi nga daw, sa distrito, kung ikaw ay district representative, then you are accountable to your electorate, to your constituents in the district where you belong. Whereas if you are a party list representative, then you don't have really specific constituents to be accountable for. Do you agree with that statement? That is why those who are opposed to the party list would also argue na lack of accountability daw itong party list system. Naniniwala po ba kayo doon?
Well, I don't agree because the main purpose why we have a guaranteed inclusive representation is to strengthen our accountability as far as public officers are concerned. Since party list is more on a national level, they are accountable to the sectors that they represent. Take note, not only based on the conflict resolutions, we have Supreme Court decisions wherein the Supreme Court intervened in disqualifying party list representative who are doing something against the very reason why they have this party list group.
So meron ng mga decisions of the Supreme Court
Yes.
that, what did they do? Did they annul the registration of the party list for doing things or carrying acts that go against the sector they're supposed to represent?
Well, we do have one case, in Banat case, wherein the Supreme Court intervened as far as qualification of the party list representative is concerned. We also have one case, the Anwaray, wherein the Supreme Court intervened in disqualifying and removing Anwaray as one of the parties groups. So I think it's more on being proactive. All the members of the party list group or organization, they must make their representatives accountable. And if these representatives are no longer serving their purpose, they have the power to evict them.
Well,
My last question,
Please, partner.
Attorney
Yes.
Mike, my partner,
Yes.
is in relation to the nominees. Is there a way that COMELEC can, by regulation, restrict the nominees of party lists if there's proof that they are a direct family member of someone who is already a political, elected politically of a district or another national position, considering that, I don't know, that shows that you're not really representing the sector, or that this is, again, like a way to circumvent the rules on political dynasty?
Well, to be objective about it, since COMELEC is empowered to promulgate rules, and they are the one in charge of the party list. They can do that. However, again, it is more ideal if the Congress would intervene to join COMELEC in this endeavor to ensure that we are still aligned with the principle of our party list law.
Well, that was indeed a very thoughtful and informative conversation. Attorney Karen, what do you think was the most, shall we say, interesting portion of the discussion?
Well, I think I like how we started off with Attorney Ronald saying he is for the party list system because of its noble purpose.
Exactly.
But as soon as we went into the details, marami talagang flaws.
Marami
So I
flaws.
think what stood out for me is what Attorney Ronald also said, that if it's a good law with a good purpose, let's not get rid of it, but let's fix it. So reform, I think, partner, is what's needed here.
Agree.
Sincere reform. Yeah.
I totally agree. In my case naman is the possibility that we can have abogado as a party list.
Kaya yung mawala yung system. Paparegister muna tayo.
Pa-register muna tayo. But levity aside, really, it was a very interesting discussion, a very serious issue that needs to be discussed, and then the flaws of the existing law must definitely be addressed if we are really to ensure that the mandate and the intention of the Constitution to ensure that the unrepresented or underrepresented and marginalized sectors of society are properly represented in Congress, and to make sure that they also pass legislation that could also be to their advantage.
Yes. Very good points, Attorney Mike. Our sincere thanks to Attorney Ronald Santiago of COMELEC for joining us tonight and sharing his deep expertise on this important topic.
The party list system continues to spark passionate debate in our political landscape. Whether we chose to scrap it or safeguard it, one thing's clear: change must come from an informed public.
Join us again next time on Abogado as we dive into more of the legal and political issues that shape our nation. This is Abogado. Good night.